Minecraft is often said to be a game of infinite possibilities. Its sandbox nature and impressive amount of technical capabilities allows for a dedicated player to make anything they desire. Well, almost anything. While the game's creative mode allows players to access an infinite amount of every item in the game's more popular survival mode places limits on players to create a game flow. The relevant limit for today being that players must procure any materials they wish to use from the world rather than the infinite depths of the creative inventory. This does mean, however, that some materials are far easier to obtain than others. Simple materials like wheat and wood can be easily obtained in massive quantities with basic crop management, while materials such as obsidian or shulker shells are more complicated to obtain in large quantities. This means, in a grim reflection of reality, some materials only exist in a limited quantity, and more cannot be obtained. Since the majority of Minecraft worlds are 60 million by 60 million blocks wide, there is functionally infinite material for any single player's desires. But that does require running further and further afield each time more is needed, and this is without factoring multiplayer into the equations, exponentially increasing the demands of the world's resources, and denying those resources from newer players who weren't around to get these materials. Additionally, there are several popular alternative ways of playing Minecraft other than a standard world, such as Skyblock or Superflat, which drastically reduces the availability of certain features by dint of the design of these modes. This has begun to bother me, especially with the recent addition of trial vaults, which have every indication they can be reused, but simply cannot be. So I have decided to make this video going over all of these non-renewables and how they could become renewable, as most of these things do simply seem to be due to the fact that Mojang has far different priorities than me, that is, making an actual game. But first, remember to click all the YouTube buttons. Okay, go! The unrenewables can be sorted into some basic categories, the first being that have no need to be renewable, or which can't be renewable, and only includes 5 items. The first 2 of which are large ferns and tall grass. These can only be obtained from village chests, but that's only if you want them in item form. The smaller version of these plants can easily be attained by simply using bone meal on the grass, then using that same bone meal to make the small plants big. Another pair is that of suspicious sand and gravel, and as these are functionally just loot drops, there's no really way to make that renewable. Though it would be interesting if when sand or gravel is dropped on an item, it would land as a suspicious block containing that item. Just a fun idea. Finally, for the inconsequentials, is the dragon egg. Yeah, this one is pretty self-explanatory. The developers have made it clear that only one egg should ever exist, and though a method of reacquiring the egg if it ever gets lost would be nice, the egg is a trophy, not a resource. Moving on to the actually interesting parts of the video. Why can we only craft the leather horse armor? The rest come from a variety of loot chests. Just let us craft them, Mojang. And while we are talking about mechanics most players barely use, pottery shards. Yes, shards, not shards. And yes, all of them. They all drop from suspicious sand or gravel, or generate in trial chambers. Because these are so diverse, I feel going with a duplication crafting recipe for them, like with armor trims, should cover most of them. Finally, to round out the pile of mechanics that no one seems to care about, banner patterns! The flow, guster, snout, and thing patterns are all non-renewable. Flow and guster are only obtained from trial vaults, while snout only comes from bastion chests. Banner patterns do have crafting recipes, but only for flower charge, creeper charge, and thing. So the answer here is obvious. Make crafting recipes for the rest of them. Snouts can be made with a piglin head, which require a charged creeper to kill a piglin. How you are getting a charged creeper into the Nether, I don't know, but it's not my problem. Flow could be used with the breeze rod, like the flow armor trim, and while there is no guster armor trim to base it off of, I feel like a wind charge would do fine for that banner pattern. Now, I did say that the thing recipe had existed, but it also wasn't renewable banner pattern. So how does that work? Well, that's because the ingredient for it is an enchanted golden apple. Colloquially known as a notch apple, this item has infamously lost its crafting recipe, and now can only be found in loot chests. The obvious answer is just to restore the crafting recipe, but I can get why the devs maybe cut that back, because with just gold and apples, you can have one of the best healing items in the game. So instead, what if we upped the requirement to use a regular golden apple and included a totem of undying? This actually makes a lot of sense because totems gives similar status effects to enchanted golden apples. Resistance, absorption, fire resistance. You just can't eat totems, which, I mean, look at it. But if you stuff it into an apple, then you get all the juicy healing with none of the near-death experiences. Or I guess, actual death experiences. You know, on the topic of trial chambers, they have one exclusive item that can't be gotten renewably. But these all come from trial vaults, which have a small problem. Technically, trial vaults are renewable, but only if you have 129 players in a world. This causes the vault to be overloaded and lose track of which players have opened the vault. This is neat, but unless you are playing on a massive server and can convince 128 other people to all open the same vault over and over again, they are functionally one-time use. The thing that comes out of these boxes, which is why I'm covering them, but has also grabbed the attention of the greater Minecraft community, is the mace gotten from the heavy core. I think it's a cool idea for this heavy and powerful item to use another heavy and powerful item for its creation. A block of Netherite. Just smelt that baby up to reduce the size and compact it, and you get yourself a heavy core. Additionally, the vaults can also spit out a specific enchantment, which means that enchantment is theoretically permanently losable. Did I say an enchantment? I meant 2 are permanently losable, because Swift Sneak is also exclusive to ancient cities. Now you could be lame and add these to the pool librarian villagers pull from, like with the other treasure enchantments Mending and Frostwalker, but with a potential trading rebalance coming up, that seems like a less stable placement, plus that just contributes to the problem the rebalance was trying to solve. Instead, I wanted to add these two to the other luck-based collection of all the game's enchantments. Fishing! Since I brought up an ancient city, there is another thing that only comes from chests down there. Echo shards, which are used to create the recovery compass. Most players don't use these, but what if you did? The perfect idea for these actually comes from some old lore theories back when 1.19 was released. Some people theorized that echo shards were created through a combination of amethyst and skulk, which sounds like a perfect crafting recipe for me. While we're in the depths, there's a lot of stuff down here that just can't be gotten renewably. Deep slate, tuff, and calcite. Tuff especially feels weird since it just got a glow up with a ton of cool block variants in 1.21, but there's no way to make more of it. Well, the way here is pretty obvious. Just give these trades to mason villagers instead of stuff like chiseled stone brick. Why? Deep slate isn't the only general environment block to be limited. Netherrack is as well. Cobble, and thus stone, can easily be replicated with the classic skyblock cobble generator. Dirt can be duplicated due to a quirk in how the coarse dirt crafting recipe works. And endstone is made if there is no endstone surrounding the end's exit gateway, but the dragon is respawned. But netherrack can't be regenerated. Okay, that is a lie. It can't be regenerated in Java Edition. Because in the Bedrock Edition, if you generate a nether portal over a massive block of, like, just out in the air over an ocean of lava in the nether, but water in the overworld, then it will generate a small little platform. In the Java Edition, this platform is just made out of more obsidian. But in Bedrock Edition, it's made out of netherrack. So in theory, you could just find a really big hole and force generate a ton of portals in it. So just version parity here, Mojang. Thankfully, this is the only time version parity is an issue. And continuing the trend of underground, spore blossoms. These are the only caves and cliffs stuff in lush caves to not be given to the wandering trader in 1.17. So just do that. Oh, well, what's that you're all saying? That my suggestions are super safe and barely affect the game? Fine. Because diamonds are also non-renewable. And now the wandering trader will sell them. Now, this isn't as big of a deal as you think. The actual gameplay benefits of tradable items, diamond gear, are already renewable from villager trades. So the only thing raw diamonds can gain you is jukeboxes, enchanting tables, and smithing templates. You only need one jukebox reasonably, you only need one enchanting table reasonably, and outside of the netherite upgrade specifically, smithing templates are all cosmetic. And for the netherite upgrade, that is not the hard part of getting netherite gear. The netherite is the hard part. Okay, so time to calm down and do some fishing for some nice ocean goodies. See, the useful sponge can only be found in the ocean monument. Meanwhile, the heart of the sea is only found in buried treasure chests, both of which only spawn in on world generation. Well, now you can fish them both up. Gives more value to fishing that way. And, I don't have a creative transition for this section, but, dead bush. It's just a bundle of sticks, so, like, do literally anything. Crafting, bone meal on sand. But I like the idea of also putting it on fishing, but this time as garbage. If you have ever been in a river, you know there are a ton of sticks just laying in that thing. Next up, we have ores. Just all the ores. All of them. I know this bugs a lot of, like, the builders out there because you have to go out and find ore, and if that ore is rare, like emerald, or you can't find the specific variant that matches your build, then it's just a total headache. So why not make them craftable? Because you see, most of the drops from these are renewable. You just can't get the ore block itself. Now, there is a problem. Because you are then crafting a block that can in theory be fortuned, depending on what the crafting recipe is, you could get more out than you put in. For most of the blocks, it isn't a problem, because even with maximum fortune, they can only drop up to 8 or 9 of their from a single block. So you would only need to put in a solid block of that ore. Except copper. Which means that the crafting recipe needs to be 3 blocks of the ore. Just for copper. And this is to keep the crafting recipes uniform between all of the ores. So thank you, copper. You've made it to know that crafting a single diamond ore takes 3 diamond blocks. But you can buy those now, so it's not a big deal. And yes, this does include the biggest decorative block that everyone hates getting, gilded blackstone. It's so pretty, but why can we not craft this, Mojang? Okay, I was avoiding this, but several music discs aren't renewable. Creator, Creator Music Box, Precipice, Relic, Other Side, 5, and Pigstep. Now the easy answer is to put them with the others, dropped by creepers, killed by skeletons, since Cat and 13 can also come from structures, but are in that pool anyways. But that method has always felt odd to me, especially in modern versions where we have things like copper and goat horns and all this stuff. For now, let's go with that and leave the greater music disc discussion for another day. As we approach the end of this video, the end has a few things to talk about. For one, dragon heads, and also elytra. These only spawn in end ships, and they don't drop from any mob or anything, which is weird for the head, because it's the only head that does this. I don't really know for these. Many data packs stick the elytra with the ender dragon kill, which, like, doing that for a head and an elytra sounds like a good incentive to keep killing the dragon, even if you've spawned all the gateways, and a good reward for going through and getting all the gateways, because then you have 20 elytra without ever having to explore an end city. But this is the thing I am least confident in, so moving on to, in fact, the last item on the list, and one I'm really proud of. See, ancient debris, and thus netherite, is not infinitely renewable. It can, in theory, all be mined up. But here's a creative idea, because we need an ancient hard material that is in some way related to the nether, but renewable. Behold, a wither killing a sniffer. The wither changing drops is a precedented thing because of the existence of the wither rose, which I've always taken to be the actual mob it killed just shriveled up. Sniffers have this big blocky thing, and they look a lot like netherrack and warped wood. And sniffers are canonically an ancient mob. So, when a wither kills a sniffer, it shrivels up, but the shell hardens into ancient debris, thus making it infinitely farmable. But breeding snithers to feed into a wither farm is pain, especially since it's only going to drop debris, which you need 4 of for a single netherite ingot. And there we go. I've made everything renewable in Minecraft. That icky feeling when using diamonds and stuff is gone. Go enjoy those pretty fireworks and lodestone floors. One take!